Hey guys, wanted to make a lesson today covering triads and how we can sort of use triads to, for one thing, kind of learn our way around the fretboard a little better. They also help us locate chord tones when we're improvising, and you can use these little triad shapes to sort of start building a vocabulary of licks. I've done some pretty extensive lessons on chord construction and triads in the music theory area of my website, so you might want to check those out, but I'll give you a little bit of a quick rundown today just to show you what we're working on. So really, all of our basic chords are triads, like an E chord or a D chord or an A chord, and also minor chords are triads, B minor, G minor, whatever. Those are all triads, meaning they're made up of 3 notes. So obviously, most of our guitar chords actually have more than 3 notes in them. But for example, if you look at like cowboy style E chord, you've got 3 different E notes, 2 B notes, and a G sharp right in the middle. So you actually only have 3 unique notes, the other notes are doubled up. So that's why an E chord is still a triad. For the sake of this lesson, we're just going to concern ourselves with major and minor triads. There's a couple other triad families, but we're not going to deal with those just yet. So for starters, to build a triad, you look at a major scale, you grab the root, third, and fifth. So for an A chord, you have A, C sharp, E. For a D chord, you'd have D, F sharp, and A. Those make A major and D major triads. To make the triads minor, all you do is grab that third and flat it, drop it by a half step. So like here in a D major triad, you just replace that F sharp with an F, and you have a D minor triad. To make inversions of the triad, you start by taking the root and you move it up an octave, so now the third is on the bottom. This is called a first inversion triad. And if you move that third up to the top and you have the fifth on the bottom, that's a second inversion triad. So now if we look at these triads and how they fall on the neck of the guitar, we're going to do 1 note per string, and you see basically there's only 3 different ways that a triad's going to lay on any group of 3 adjacent strings. So to do an example here in the key of C, I can do a root position triad, so root on the bottom, the third right there on the second string is an E, and then a G as the top note of the triad. That's a little C triad. And that little C triad, by the way, to relate this to the caged system, which you guys might be somewhat familiar with, so I've got that little C triad, that falls as part of this C chord, third position bar. Now first inversion C triad is going to have the E on the bottom and the C on the top, so now I have E, G, and C here in 8th position, and you can kind of visualize those as part of this bar chord C. And then finally, we have the second inversion triad C with a G on the bottom. And you can see this little like D shape that creates right here on the 12th fret. So that's basically our 3 possible triads in the key of C. Major triads, by the way. To look at these in minor, we take that third and flat it, so now we have root, flat, third, and fifth. Or we have a first inversion triad with the minor third on the bottom, root on top. Kind of visualize that as part of that C minor chord in the 8th position. And then finally, the second inversion minor triad looks like this. And if you know like a cowboy style D minor chord, that's that same kind of shape moved up here to the 11th position. So that's C minor triad. On the next string group, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th strings, I'll do the key of G this time. We have a G major triad here, which looks like it's part of this G bar chord again. Now if we do the first inversion, the B on the bottom, that's going to fall right here in the 7th position. I kind of see that as part of the caged system C shape now. And then finally, the second inversion G triad all falls here on the 12th fret, looking like part of this G chord now. And now if I switch those G triads to G minor triads, I have a G minor here, root, third, and fifth, looking like that G minor chord. First inversion, this shape is usually not so familiar to people, but it's a little triangle shape here, 7th position, so I'm on B flat, D, and G. And then the second inversion G minor triad has the 5th, the D on the bottom, root, minor third, And that looks like this G minor bar chord. And then to quickly run through the last couple string groups, the 5th, 4th, and 3rd strings, we have a D major triad. Kind of looking like the cage system C shape there. Flat that 3rd and make it minor. First inversion D major triad, now you got the F sharp on the bottom. And then the rest of the chord there, that kind of looks to me like the cage system G shape. Oops. Can make it minor by flatting the 3rd. And then finally we can put the 5th on the bottom for the second inversion triad. Now we see these notes, kind of looks like this D bar chord. And then finally on that bottom string group, the bottom 3 strings, I'll use the key of A. We have A major triad, A minor, A major again, first inversion here, minor, second inversion, make it minor. I will put a PDF together and put a link to it in the description of this video to kind of lay out all those triads for you so you can see them on paper and help you memorize them. So if you just kind of put in a little effort learning those in all the different keys, it's pretty easy to learn. Just spend a little time on it and you'll find you know your way around the fretboard way better than you used to. So one more thing I wanted to cover in this lesson, since we're kind of halfway there already, I might as well add this point. So we talked about the major and the minor triads, and I'll look just at the first string group here, the first 3 strings, and kind of show you what you can do with this. You might know if you've played some blues that you can kind of incorporate both the major and minor 3rd. And another note that you can use a lot in the blues is the flatted 7th. So if you know this triad shape, it's pretty easy to figure out a few blues licks just based on that handful of notes, the root, flatted 3rd, or minor 3rd, to the major 3rd, the 5th, and then also the flatted 7th. So I'll flesh out this idea a little more in the PDFs that I add to this lesson, but to quickly run through it here, I'll do the key of C here on kind of this top string group. Alright, so if I have this root position C triad, C, E, and then G, and I know that E is the major 3rd, the minor 3rd is just a half step below that. Now you're getting to some blues licks. And then the other note that is important in the blues is the flatted 7th. So that falls, you can look at it 2 different ways. It falls 2 frets below the root, so if this is your root, that's your flatted 7th. And then also it falls 3 frets above that 5th. So we'll have, in this case of the C triad, we'll have that 7th up top. So really you can just run through that little pattern. Flatted 7th root, minor 3rd to the major 3rd, 5th, flatted 7th up top. That just by itself makes a pretty cool blues lick. In this first inversion C triad, we have the 3rd here falls on the E here on the 9th fret, 3rd string, and then the 5th root. I'm looking kind of at this C chord shape. And here again, if I take that 3rd and add the minor 3rd, and then here's the 5th, here's that flatted 7th, falls a step and a half above the 5th, kind of between the 5th and the root, and then the root again here. And here again, if you just play through that sequence of notes, it gives you a pretty cool blues lick right out of the gate. And then looking finally at the second inversion C chord, which we have here on this string group. Got the 5th on the bottom, here's your root, and now here's your flatted 7th, 2 frets below that. And then your major 3rd was there, and I'm going to add the minor 3rd there. So now I have the 5th, flatted 7th, root, flatted 3rd to the major 3rd. And there again, you almost have a pretty cool blues lick just playing through that little sequence of notes. I probably won't bother doing all the string groups here, but I will do one more because there's a lot of familiar looking licks on this. So now I'll go to the key of G. I've got my G triad down here. Got root, can add the flatted 7th, 2 frets below that. Here's the 3rd, and I can add the flatted 3rd or the minor 3rd. And there's our 5th. And really you've got another flatted 7th kind of in reach there up on the 8th fret. I'm sorry, the 6th fret. So here now we have. If I go to put the 3rd on the bottom, the 1st inversion triad, I'm on the 2nd string group again. Now I have that, I've got my 3rd, add my minor 3rd. There's my 5th. Flatted 7th is in between the 5th and the root, step and a half above the 5th. Root again there. Now I have a bunch of blues licks right there. And then finally, looking at the 2nd inversion G chord on this string group, I have the 5th, flatted 7th, root, minor 3rd, major 3rd. So in the interest of brevity here, I won't bother going through the next 2 string groups. Another one of those things that would be super useful to figure out yourself, but I also did include it in the PDFs that I'm going to link to in the description of this lesson. So in upcoming lessons on the triads, I'm going to expand on these shapes even more and look at how we can create licks based on the modes and use the triads as kind of our home base for those licks.